Bursard. Hi. Hello. Anyone there? Hello. Yes, we are going to be covering celery. I wonder what gave that away. Charge that. Alright, let's get to it. Hi. Hi. How is everyone? I see a bunch of you here. Let me say hi. My camera's looking in a weird direction. There we go. There we go. Hi. It's time to do some streaming. I'm gonna preface this stream with the fact that I am tired. I'm tired. It's yeah, I guess it doesn't matter if I tell you guys. It's that time of the month and my body's like, you want a nap. You slept in until 11:30, but you want a nap right now. Yesterday I did that. That's why I didn't stream. I got through most of my day and then I was like, nah, I'm not streaming, man. I'm taking a nap. I took a fat nap and I woke up and I was like, I'm not getting out of these fucking blankets. No stream. It was so cozy. And you still want a nap, Queso? I get it. I get it. I won't lie, this stream probably won't be super long. I do have a collab to attend. Oh god, what time? Around 8-ish PST. So 10-ish CST. So I have to split my energy between this and that. I won't be coming back to my stream. You know what? It doesn't fucking matter if they're tracking it or not. Because you know what? It makes no fucking difference to me. Like, it's... Wow. Shocker. All of your favorite female VTubers do the same thing. Whoa. Oh my. Wow. We just... You know? It's pretty fucking normal. But I figure, you know, at least this way you guys aren't gonna, like, panic. Be like, oh no, are you okay? Are you okay? Go get your rest if you need it. I'm like, nah, bitch, this is normal. This is just what happens.
Senpai detected.
Senpai detected! Oh shit, Rasta got a sub. Welcome to the emotes, Rasta. Yeah, let me say hi to everyone. Congrats on first Bach. Hello, hello. Hi, Tyler. Sorry you got scammed out of first. Hi, Hi, Rasta. Hi, K-Cam. Hi, Komi. Hi, Queso. Hi, Nightbot. Hi, me. Hi, CD. How are you? What else we got here? Poisson. Hello, Poisson. Hope you're well. Enjoy your studying. Tyler's on a 75 stream streak. Holy shit. I've done 75 streams. God damn. Yeah, but we're gonna cover celery. Anyone else here yet? No, I think I got everyone that's in chat. Hello, everyone. But yeah, this will be a bit of a shorter presentation, mostly because I don't actually know a ton about celery. I know enough. Probably know more than the average individual, but it's not my specialty. I'm reusing a PowerPoint from back in school. So this is actually an assignment that I presented on in my vegetable science class when I took vegetable science. So this might be the closest thing to actual horticultural content that we've done so far. Most of what I've taught you guys is just generic kind of botanical info. When I talk about specific plant families, I really never get into the horticulture of it. Yeah, so just so you know, this is going to be more of what I actually was trained in. And I hope you guys enjoy. I, being tired, only sat down to prep for this stream like 15 minutes before stream started, so I don't even have the PowerPoint open yet. I, instead of prepping for stream on time, opted to go get ice cream. So I was eating ice cream, and I was busy with that. But I do have the presentation. I'm just gonna double check quickly that. The rest of it. Bum, 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 bum. Oh my god, the nepenthesVT. I forgot that was in here. Shit cracks me up. Lol, I spelt references wrong. Oop. Oh boy. Okay, let me pull the presentation up and show you guys. Well, I guess I should probably switch rooms so you can see it. Where'd it go? There it is. Wait, now where'd you guys go? Oh, you guys are here. Ha ha ha, I knew that. Grab that. And I think that should be fine. All right, let's that reminds me, when I was in grade 4 or 5, I can't remember which one. I had the same teacher for both, so I'm like, I just know which teacher it was. What did I do? We were in class and we were learning like health science basically. So like whatever it was, we were talking about cartilage. So like what your nose and ears and stuff are made out of. And our teacher was trying to get us to like see if anyone knew the name of what it was. Like she just asked. She's like, "Do you know what your nose and ears are made out of?" And one kid, really excited, like knows the answer and pops a hand up, like, "Oh, I know." Teacher calls on him, and he kind of messed up. And instead of saying cartilage, he said cleavage. And a good chunk of us kids didn't quite get it. Some of us did, but not everyone. And that shit has stuck with me. That shit was funny. I will keep that memory. Oh. Yeah, that was a good one. Oh, sorry. I am tired. Um, Part of me wants to stream nice and long so that we can raid into. I think, yeah, because Gaushin's gonna stream it as well. I know Aleph and Gaushin are both streaming the collab tonight. I don't know if Poisson is also streaming it. I don't know if Terrified is also streaming it. Hi, Alex. Nice to see you. What's up, mole man? Yeah, but I also like it would be nice to raid one of them with you guys. But at the same time, I want to help Comey with wardrobe selection. Yeah, I don't know if Terry is. I'm not because I prefer to do party collab things off stream. Like I find it too difficult to keep up with chat and being entertaining in the collab. So I opt to just join in, but you'll be able to find me At least at either of those streams. If Terry is also streaming, I recommend making sure you lurk in everyone's. Because it's nice. It's nice for people to feel like everyone wants to show up for them. Maybe we can do my thing in your stream? Yeah, it just depends on how long I go. We'll see. I know most of you guys are going to go to the stream anyways, so. Actually, can I pull up the image, the promo image? Poisson made one, and it's really cute. Do I have Discord open? Yes, I do. Where does picture? Where does picture? There it is. Save image to desktop. Save it as image. Good job, me. Let's put it here. There it is. So this is tonight. We'll be playing Gamble with Your Friends. And I don't actually know much of anything about the game. Actually, I have not purchased the game yet. I still need to do that. I've been real heavy on the nap game this week. I also really want to play Animal Crossing. So, I don't know, we'll see what happens. Oh, sorry about all the yawning. I am tired. I'm tired. But it's okay. Don't worry about it. We are gonna learn about celery. We're gonna learn about celery. I hope you're excited. Close that. Let's make this full screen. Slideshow. Okay. This is not a game window. Let's not use the game window. Let's use the browser window. That would make way more sense. Here we go. A presentation about celery. I hope you guys are prepared to learn about this thing. What is going on with this? Why? There we go. You guys are in the way. Chat, why are you in my way? Don't do that. Metaflora? Metaflora is not available for another, like, I don't actually know how long. Can one of you guys write a real long chat so I can see how long the how far over I need to put chat? Someone just like type or something. Or like a bunch of you do it. I don't care. I just want to know how long, like wide I need to make this thing. I think it's gonna need to be longer because at some point it like, there we go. That's how far it needs to go. Oh my. Thank you, Kolek, actually. That's wonderful. I'm actually gonna read that one out loud because it's like poetry. Am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? Am I pagnate? Help? Is there possibly that I'm pregnant? Am I pregnant or am I okay? Could I be pregnant? How do I know if I'm pregnant? Can I be pregnant? Can you get pregante? Can you bleed while you are pergert? Can you down a 20-foot water slide pegnat? How can I get my GF pregnant? What happened when get perganat? How can a 9-year-old get pregnant? Prangnet. Will my get pregnan? What is the best time to pollinate to become pregnant? Does anyone know? Do you not show up in chat? No, you're in there. You're in chat. Am I pomegranate? Am I Gremlins? My grenade. Pringles? Okay, I'm gonna make you guys a little smaller because I know some of my presentation's gonna sit there. Where is it? There we go. Let me do this painfully slow. But let me know if my volume sucks because my mic is a little far from my face right now. Yeah. Am I in the way? Maybe. Maybe I need to make the presentation smaller. Oh yeah, I'm wearing a hat, which means every time I look down, the camera can't see my face. I'm not taking it off. I'm cozy. I'm also in my super fluffy cozy sweater, but I do think I'm gonna change the size of this browser window. At the Amaranth store. There, that should be good. Just a wee bit more shrink. Is a frog hat? No, I'm just wearing a black ball cap today. Where's the long message? No, I can't see it anymore. That's okay. If it gets cut off, well, we tried. Okay. Yeah. So this is, I presented this in my vegetable science class. The project was to both present on a specific family of plants, specifically vegetables, right? So we could all pick one of the families that had popular crops in it. I recall that someone was real dumb and they picked Poaceae, and instead of doing the one vegetable that we're all aware of, which is corn, they did a presentation on rice. Rice is not a vegetable, it's a grain, so it falls under agriculture and not horticulture. That was embarrassing for them. I felt bad. They put all that work into their project, and then the prof was like, rice ain't vegetable, buddy. But whatever. I picked Apiaceae, which is the name of this one. Can you guys see my... Can you see my cursor? Yes. So Apiaceae is the name of the family, and celery is really closely related to a lot of other things that happen to be in this family. So I figure before we get too far into celery, I might pull up this. No, that's not it. Where's my metaflora? There it is. So, I figure before we get into too much of the celery, I know this is metaflora, but that's just because it automatically opens that one. I want to look up celery in the life map and kind of show you where we are. So I will just walk us through because I do know where celery is. But we're gonna... Oh, sorry. All right, celery in the Apiaceae family. This is our plants, as we all know. Yes, Tyler, rice is nice. And we're going to jump up all the way up here into our asterids, but I'm going to kind of explain how we got there. So to start, we are definitely a plant, and therefore we are an embryophyta. So we have two parents that are required to cross in order to get another organism. So we're not a bryophyte though, which is our mosses and such. We are a much more complex organism. We're celery. And celery has a vascular system. But celery also has seeds. It's not just a vascular system. So we're going to jump up here to the spermatophyta. And spermatophyta is any plants with seeds. Now, celery is not a conifer. It doesn't have needles. It has leaves at the top, right? So it's not going to be one of these guys in the gymnosperms. We're going to jump up here to flowering plants, the mesangiospermae. This group, this life map breaks mesangiospermae into both Magnoliacida and mesangiospermae, but angiosperms, so anything that has a flowering structure for pollination services, that's an angiosperm. So we're going to jump up from here into our pentapetalae. It's not a monocot, it is a dicot. And from here, we're going to jump up into our asterids. And that is largely due to the fact that celery has a flower type that is in this group. So there's different kinds of flower structures, and we haven't gotten into flowers yet and the differences in structures, but it does belong to this group. And from within here, we are in the campanulids, which takes us one step closer to things like sunflowers. And from here, we are in the apiales. And here we go, Apiaceae. So Apiaceae is a decently large group of things, and other plants that exist in the Apiaceae, in the apiales, are things like carrots, right? Carrots are closely related to celery. Parsnips, dill, the herb. And what these guys are characterized by is something called an umbel. So the family used to be called Umbelliferae, but is now called Apiaceae. So Apiaceae, again, used to be called Umbelliferae due to the umbel type flowers that they have. What is this? Hi, first time chatter, Whittle Liliana. You're not a bot. Trust it's funny. Hello, dear. We have arrived from the Mod Union, and we have a few questions for you. How often do you feed your mods, and how clean is the mod basement? Thank you for answering on. And on is also a floral structure? Seed structure. Fruit. It's part of a fruit. Ons exist in fruit. Thank you for answering in advance, and if any mods want to tell me a different story, please speak now or forever hold your peas. Get it? Peas. Ha, ha, ha. Well, welcome in, Whittle Liliana. It's nice to have you here. Believe it or not, I don't actually keep the mods in a basement. The mods are treated fairly well, except for Gaussian, because Gaussian is a math nerd. The math nerds live in a basement. So, I don't know what it's like down there. I don't go. I'm not a math nerd. Yeah, my mods are free-range mods. I let them outside. They can eat all of the grass in the pasture. Your ideals don't match with the union, and you claim that they are free-ranged mods. Okay, they are free-ranged. Do you know the definition of free-ranged versus free-run? Free-run is more of a concern than free-range. Union believes that free-range mods shouldn't exist. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Unfortunately, I follow agricultural standards, and yeah, we're gonna continue to let them be free range, as it is the most efficient and effective method of rearing your animals. Okay, now I want to know if 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in DC is a real place. Yeah. Okay. But this is our Apiaceae family. And here you can see that for some reason Google is calling them umbellifers. That's not the current name. But yes, you will sometimes see it listed as umbelliferae when you're looking things up, just due to it being the earlier recognized naming convention for this group. So what it is that they are related to, there's, more than 3,800 species and 400 genera. But some of the most well-known plants in this group are anise, which is a licoricey flavored plant, caraway, carrots, celery, chervil, coriander, cumin, dill, fennel, lovage, cow parsley, parsley, parsnip, sea holly, and silphium. Whoa! Where is Oreo? Silphium's his favorite plant. Okay, well, yeah. So there are also a whole bunch of toxic plants within this family, including giant hogweed and poison hemlock, spotted cowbane, fool's parsley, and this cool thing known as water dropwort. We're not going to get into all of that today because it's just about celery, but this is a fairly large and economically important group of plants. Yeah. They called you giant hogweed in college. Lol. Sure they did. Okay. But yeah, this is our family. I would like to show us the yeah, here we go. So flowers are almost always in this shape within this family. Obviously, there's the alternate, the occasional things that are breaking that convention. Every group of things has that. There are always exceptions to rules. But umbels are plants or flowers that are shaped like this. And so the big takeaway from this is that it is a flat-topped group of flowers. So if you look, they all come from a central point, but they all reach, even if this stem is much longer than this one, all of them reach a flat top. That is characteristic of an umbel. The other thing is that it's terminal, meaning that it occurs at a tip. So you won't have continuous vegetative growth coming past this flower. Things like apples grow on a branch that continues growing with apples and flowers dispersed along the branch. All right, so that is our characteristic feature within the Apiaceae family. This one specifically is a carrot. Yeah. So that's all I really wanted to show off. And I do believe that our celery is here in the Apioid superclade. I could be wrong. Selene, APA. It should be here with an apium. Yeah. So apium graveolens is kind of the largest of the species groups. Yeah, and so there are a bunch of things from this celery species that are branched off from each other, as while they are the same species, they have a bunch of different cultivars within. Other plants that do this include brassicas. So Brassica oleracea is cabbage, but it is also the same exact species as broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and cabbage and and a couple other things as well. They're the same species, but different cultivars within the species. Thank you for the cabbage. All right. So, moving on from here, let's get back to our celery presentation. I thought this picture was cute. Das bison. Okay, so I've already talked a bit about this, and and what it is, yeah, the botany and the origin of this plant. So again, we are coming from the family Apiaceae. Yeah, so we're coming from the family Apiaceae or Umbelliferae. The carrot is, again, based on the A. graveolens plant. So the species is this, this is the species that it's all originating from. Genus is Apium. Yeah. The family also includes carrot, parsnip, coriander. There is no consensus across all science that gives us the exact origin of the family Apiaceae. Specifically with celery, we don't actually know exactly where it comes from, but the consensus is agreed upon that it's either temperate Europe or Western Asia. So somewhere in that region. Old world crop. All right. Actually, I'm going to go back one bit. We didn't really cover a lot of the botany. So something interesting about this plant is that it is considered a rosette, much like cabbage. And all that means is that the... Why does this keep fucking over my... Yeah, here. Okay. So the big thing that comes from this is what you should take away is that this right here, right at the base, this is your stem. So this is the plant stem. It attaches to your root system here. This is where we cut it off as a crop. Like when we harvest, we cut it here. Plants that have this cool little basal stem, these are the plants you can usually stick into water and replant. So you'll often see people say that you can take the base of your lettuce or dill or anything like that. Why does it stop showing me this? No, it just keeps taking me that way. Okay. And then each of these stalks is a leaf. So this is one long ass leaf. So celery, each stalk of celery is your leaf stem. And if you remember back to when we covered the botanical structures of plants, specifically the vegetative structures, we learned that this is called a petiole. So that is what we're eating when we eat celery. There are also different kinds of cultivars of celery around the world. I do believe that it's on my next page, so I'll wait. But yeah, the uses of celery. The original use of celery within human culture was as medicines, and I don't know / remember what the medicines it was used for include, due to the fact that I wrote this presentation in 2018. It's been 8 years since I wrote this. So I don't remember exactly what the medicinal uses were. But traditionally, this is what it was utilized for. Old celery, the older cultivars that people would grow way back when in ancient Greek and stuff, or ancient Greece and such, those varieties would have been quite bitter. If you've ever eaten the leaves off of celery, just plain, you'll kind of get more of that taste. And so it really wasn't utilized as a vegetable crop too often. So the first documentation of celery used in a food context, a culinary context, so that happened in the 1600s within France. This is just the documented first form of cultivation, but it is most likely originating as a food crop in Italy. Even since the beginning of the use of celery as a food product or food crop, would be consumed both cooked and fresh. So when we are talking about vegetables or fruits or things, we often just refer to things as being eaten fresh or being eaten cooked. Like that's a separate kind of category when we talk about these things. Are they good for fresh eating or are they good for processing? When we talk about cooked versus processed, processed things go through prior to getting to you as a consumer, they're processed before purchase. Seeds can be used as a spice, and that would be what we call coriander. Typically, coriander as a crop that is cultivated comes from cilantro. So if you let cilantro grow in flower and go to seed, that is how you get coriander. So if you guys are ever growing words, if you're ever growing cilantro and you find that it bolts or goes into flowering really early, you'll find that it changes the flavor of the leaves. It gets much more bitter, doesn't taste the way that you usually want it in your foods. But it's still good to leave the plant in place rather than pull it because you do get coriander out of it. There are other plants that you can do that with are like radish. Radish pods are delightful. You can eat them similar to green beans before they finish developing. So if you think of things like green beans, if you pull them off the plant while they're still young, tender, and green, you cook them, you eat them. If you let them stay on the plant to reach full maturity, the whole pod completely dries out, and then you get dry beans. So it's the same concept. Bolting is just the name of plants that flower and go from this compact stem, and it bolts, meaning that this stem starts to grow up and produce flowers at the top. So lettuces do that. There's a couple of things that do that. So you're not looking to harvest the floral structures or the fruit necessarily. So bolting is typically considered undesirable. If you do have things that are looking like they're gonna bolt, you can just pinch those structures off of the plant and the plant will continue growing vegetative structures. So things that are just meant to grow and support the plant rather than things that produce seeds. So flowers, fruits, seeds. All right. Again, I don't actually know what the scent utilized in celery would be. It's a very strong smell, that's for sure, especially if you think of its relatives like coriander and dill. It's very strongly scented, but I have no idea what the fucking scent of celery oil would be and why you would use it in fragrances. I don't know. Not part of horticulture. that's like that's an entirely different field of study. So again, following into the uses of celery. So there are lots of varieties of celery, and you kind of base them off of the structures that it is cultivated for. So in North America, we consider it for petiole consumption. We eat the stalk of the leaves. That is that nice crunchy water. There's high water content portion of the plant. In Europe, it is very common to see the consumption of this thing called celeriac. It is still a type of celery, but it grows a larger root and stem structure. And that is what the cultivated portion of the plant is harvested for use. Often in Asia, you will actually find varieties that produce much larger and prolific leaves rather than a large stalk or a large root, and that's because the leaves are utilized as a food. The leaf consumption of celery would be used in cooked and processed foods just due to that intense bitter taste. Typically celeriac. Sometimes you see it used fresh, like chopped up, but a lot of the time you see it processed as well into soups and such, stews. And while we do that the same with the petiole, the traditional celery we see in the grocery stores in North America, We go for the petiole, and again, that is both fresh eating and processed. The most common cultivars of celery that we see specifically in North America for petiole production are Tango, Victoria. There is one that is typically referred to as Utah, but you will find it under a couple other names as well, but they are based on this Utah variety. And then there's one called Golden. And Golden is quite interesting because it does this thing called self-blanching. If you guys are familiar with the concept of blanching, we do this as a processing, we do it with processing, we should say. So blanching is when you reduce, I need an actual definition of blanching. One moment. Let's look it up. Blanching. So it's a form of cooking. It's a culinary technique where food, it's briefly submerged in boiling water or steam and then plunged into an ice bath. That is how you do this. What the hell is celery? Hi, welcome in. Hello, Zhao. Yes, so the purpose of blanching, when we use it as a culinary process, is it kind of changes the structures of enzymes within the plant, and it changes the flavor, the color, and nutritional structure and makeup. So it doesn't get rid of your nutrition, but what it does is it alters the form that these nutrients are in. A lot of the time, it makes it more accessible for the human body to digest. Yeah. Availability. What? Hi. Yeah, so that's what we do with blanching. We will often blanch foods after harvest, but there are the occasional thing that do this self-blanching. And the purpose of it is that it does this change in color and flavor on its own based on cultivation. Cultivation being, actually, again, we'll grab that. Cultivating. So to cultivate is the intentional nurturing and growth and production of a plant. So agricultural cultivation, cultivating personal development. It's the growth aspect. It's intentional growth where you put the effort in. Kind of like the definition of horticulture, which is small scale, intensive food production, versus agriculture and agronomy, which is large scale, low intensity. So there's less input required, and you can do it on a much larger scale as a result. It's why you don't see fields of celery the same size of fields of wheat. Okay, so back to it. Production or cultivation. So celery is this cool thing called a cool season crop, meaning that it prefers the colder temperatures within the growing season. There are a bunch of things that are called cool season crops, mostly things that you're growing for leaves and vegetative portions of the plant. And we grow it as something called an annual. So we harvest it the same year that we grow it. This is a plant called a biennial, meaning that it has a life cycle of about 2 years, and it will grow vegetative structures in the first year. And in the second year, it does come back, but it then pushes its production into flowers and seeds. So you only really grow celery or carrots or those plants for seed for 2 years. And if you're just growing it for the petioles or root or leaves, the vegetative parts of the plant, you treat it as an annual and harvest. It's Oreo! You've been summoned?
I have been
yes,
summoned.
because we're covering celery today. And celery is from the same group of plants as Silphium. I just thought I'd let you know. So this is a cousin to Silphium. The plants at, oh, actually, let's go back to this. Vernalization. And so vernalization is a change in temperatures. It's a way of telling the plant that it is in a different state of production. Often when we talk about vernalizing things, we talk about putting things through a cold season to trigger growth when it's brought back into warmer temperatures. So we do this with a lot of different things in horticulture, but you don't need to do that. When we talk about doing it as a winter thing, to put it into cold and then bring it back into warm to trigger that winter to spring change in the plant, we often call it stratification. And another thing that we use is called scarification, and that's just where you kind of lightly break the seed coat of the seed so that water can get in faster. It just means that you get faster sprouting. We don't do vernalization or scarification with celery seeds because they're tiny, but I do know we do it with things like lentils. I once had to sit and scratch lentil seeds on sandpaper for like a couple hours in a row to help someone in a master's project. That was interesting. Yeah. So the plants will typically reach anywhere from 30 to 60 centimeters in height, and they require about 30 centimeters of space to each side. So when you are going to plant your seeds, you can overseed and then go through and pull the excess as they grow so that you can choose the healthiest and strongest looking ones. But you do want approximately 30 centimeters between plants for optimal, most efficient production. So we typically grow celery as a transplant, meaning we will start it in a greenhouse setting. And that's just because celery transplants really well. Carrots do not, though. Carrots as a root crop don't like being disturbed, so that you will you'll direct seed carrots. Whereas celery, the root structure is a little less delicate, and so you can start it indoors in a little seed pot and then move it outdoors later. Yeah, so stand establishment can be difficult with direct seeding, and that's just because in an agricultural, horticultural setting, they don't grow really, really strongly. When you do start it in a greenhouse setting, you get much stronger plants before they go outdoors. Most celery varieties where you're growing for petiole production, leaf stalks, you're going to go from anywhere from 90 to 125 days. And those are just based off of cultivar. So that's not like, oh, maybe some of the plants in my garden will be ready in 90 and some of them will be ready in 100 days. What it means is that based on your cultivar, you get either faster production or a little bit longer. Optimal soil pH, and this is really something that you don't need to be worried about unless you're growing it commercially, is your pH of your soil, and it likes to sit in the 5 to 6 pH range. And so water sits at a pH of 7, that's our neutral. The lower you go, the more acidic it gets. So this is not a highly acidic soil, but it does sit slightly lower than neutral. Because the root system is fairly fine, it doesn't grow a really robust root system. Fine textured soils are the best. It gives them the best availability of nutrients, and the roots don't need to compete so much with the soil structure. So if you have really gravelly soil, you have really sandy soil, you have soils that are really heavy clay and quite chunky, it can be harder for those celery roots to push through, and not impossible, but this is just what it prefers. When you see things listed as organic soils, now being on the other end of my degree, this is a statement I would not have utilized. Organic and soil kind of mean the same thing. Soil is organic in the sense that it comes with some living or just like compost broken down materials. All soils are technically organic, right? Yeah. Anyways, that is just a definition that nowadays I would not be utilizing. All right, celery consumption. So this is kind of interesting. This is more trends of consumption through the more post-harvest and the, what's the word? Pertinence is not the word I'm looking for. Prevalence, that's it. They're no longer, it's a vegetable that's not as prevalent in culinary uses as it used to be. But, dun, 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 the use of celery per person began to slip after the late 90s. And it remained steady as a more commonly seen and utilized crop in the 60s and 70s. So this disappearance, this less prevalent consumption of celery has declined continuously by approximately 2% each year. So this was written in 2005. So these are stats that have ranged from the 80s to basically the 2000s. So going through the late 80s and 90s up to the new millennia. This is the trend. I cannot speak on the trends since then, as I have not done more scientific research, background info researching on these trends. Believe it or not, I'm not a celery. I don't produce celery on a mass scale. So some of this information is not as relevant to me in my career, so I don't always keep up with all of this data. So because I studied in Canada, specifically in the Canadian prairies, my focus in regards to this presentation was on that and the status within Canada. So in 2015, Canada imported about 89,000 metric tons of celery. And we produce on our own approximately 37 metric tons. And so that only accounts for about 30% of the consumption within Canada. We are significantly more reliant on celery being grown elsewhere. And while that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you can't produce it within this country, but it just means that it's a lot less common and more producers focus on different crops. I have an ad coming through now. I'm just going to hit start on it earlier, and then after the ad, we will continue. But also, Veroshnung, welcome. She used utilize in a sentence. This is beyond your comprehension. Oh, queso, planted in rocks only. In greenhouse settings where you are using a fertigation system, so some sort of hydroponics, you can use rock wool, where it is actually an inorganic form of growing media. It's really interesting. But you have to use something called a fertigation system, meaning it is consistently being fed optimal levels of nutrition, because otherwise the roots are not able to keep up with the nutritional demands of the plant. All right. I'm going to let the ad run. And then we continue. is with chicken wings. Yeah, often celery is utilized as a garnish rather than the main vegetable consumed. Would NEP survive in an inorganic soil? No, again, not unless it was grown in a fertigation system. But nepenthes, well, they do well with high water situations. That's not the right word. Conditions. Well, they do well with high water conditions, like trumpet pitchers. Often you can find them in bogs. They prefer not that. Princess Unicorn, hello, hello. Yeah. OMG, it's the PPU. Parts per unicorn. Got a little less than 30 seconds remaining on the ad, and then we continue. Parts per unicorn. Precisely. Okay, I believe the ad break has ended, and so we can continue. So, blanching. We did kind of mention this before. There are different ways to use blanching in your production of celery, your cultivation methods. So this is what you would do during the cultivation of the vegetable rather than post-harvesting. So blanching is a culinary method, can still be done, but we also have methods of promoting blanching within the cultivation itself. And so the old practice of blanching celery, the original purpose of it, is it does reduce the bitter flavors and it helps reduce the stringiness, the fibrousness of celery. You'll also notice that sometimes you will get celery that is significantly more green in color. It has not been blanched
Holy fruit salad.
the same way. Holy fruit salad, it's Fruit Salad Puncher. Nice to see you. Those have just not been blanched as much, or the variety is not as, what's the word here? I'm forgetting the word. Hi Moose! Hi Moose! Thank you so much for the sub. 48 months is fucking wild. I love it though. Yeah. So, not all varieties of celery are as predisposed to blanching. That's a good word. Trenching. Trenching is a form of blanching. We're reaching 4 years of viewers. Moose is actually the person that helped set me up with streaming. The reason I hit start on streaming was Moose. So, you guys have Moose to thank for me being able to get to streaming. They also stream, so go give him a follow, give him some love and support. Moose is a wonderful human being. Okay, so trenching. Trenching is really common. Trenching is the act of digging a little bit of a trench and planting into the base of the trench. And then as the plant grows, you continue to fill it with soil so that the plant is less exposed to sunlight and gives it more incentive to grow taller. Other things that we use with trenching includes asparagus. And while you don't really see it super commonly in North America, this is more common in Central Europe. Weißes Spargel. Weiße Spargel. So white asparagus. This is the German for it. This is what I know it as. We really do not see white asparagus as a culinary vegetable in North America. But what is done for this is a combination of trenching and hilling. And what it means is as that stalk grows out of the soil, one of them looks wrong, right? Um, as they grow up, you consistently keep the plant buried. So this stalk, asparagus stalk, that it never gets the opportunity to actually reach the soil surface and start photosynthesizing. So that is why it is completely white. If you look at things like lettuce, you will notice that, especially on things like romaine lettuce, the base of that leaf is typically lighter in color than the tip. The reason for that is because the tips of the leaves are more exposed to sunlight, and therefore they are more responsible for photosynthesis. And that is why they have an increased concentration of chlorophyll within the leaf portion, like the cells. Didn't give them much of a choice. I mean, I just didn't know how to hook up my capture card to stream Animal Crossing. And that is kind of what I wanted to do. So Moose helped me figure that out, how to connect everything between a Twitch account and OBS, and then helped me with doing some test stream and do here. What have I done? Oh, there. Sorry. I was sitting here fiddling with my my iPad pencil thing, and I accidentally twisted the tip of it off. It's okay. I put it back on. It's fine. Yeah. So Weischerspagel. Another thing that we utilize this kind of reduced sun production with is rhubarb. And rhubarb is a vegetable. It's the same part of the plant as celery. So old style forced rhubarb production. Forced rhubarb. It's grown in an indoor or partially underground setting where it is not given access to sunlight the same way. And so when you harvest forced celery, what you get are leaves that are much lighter in color. They really lack chlorophyll. And what it does is it makes the plant more tender and kind of increases the sugar content within these vegetative structures. You love eating rhubarb leaves. Damn, how the fuck did you get here after eating rhubarb leaves? Don't eat rhubarb leaves. They are full of oxalic acid. They will make you sick. It's not good. Don't eat rhubarb leaves. If you want, you can utilize your rhubarb leaves, flip them upside down and stick them on your soil surface, and they act as a weed barrier. Good stuff to do with your remaining plant material. Okay, so that is what you do with these. All right, trenching, hilling. Trenching and hilling are kind of opposite. Typically, you still use a little bit of the hilling method when you do trenching because the plant does still want to kind of hit that sunlight. Okay, collared methods of blanching are where you create a barrier between the sun exposure and the stalk. And I have some images of that coming up, so you'll be able to see that. And then there are those self-blanching varieties that are predisposed to grow tighter, more compact, and therefore reduces the light exposure on a good portion of the leaf stalks. Now, here is your concept of trenching versus hilling. Well, hilling would be where you plant it and then you continue mounding soil above the surface. This is kind of a combination of the two. This is fairly common in practice. I have done this with I've also done this with potatoes in my own yard setting, and I've found it quite useful, especially if you're growing in things like a grow bag, because you are limited on the amount of root space you have. So, collaring your celery. This is a couple different varieties, so you can either grow it straight like this. This is not following any blanching practice. This is someone utilizing a insulation material So this looks like a bubble wrap that is reflective and utilized to control, regulate temperature a little more. If you have no AC in your house and it gets really hot because you have windows that have direct sun, you can actually utilize this stuff to cover the inside of your window. It's very, very inexpensive and it works really, really well. You can buy it in big rolls and then just cut it to the size you want. It also works in winter because it is an insulation material. So if you lose a lot of heat in the winter, you can again just kind of put some of it in that window frame on the inside, and it does help with heat loss. I say this as someone who lives in Canada where it's really fucking cold, and some days we're colder than the surface of Mars. That's always interesting because people love to like talk about that, and when it happens, you'll like you get it on the news and stuff. Yeah. The fuck is puppy girl celery? Oh, because it's collared. I get it. I get it. Yeah. So this to me looks like I don't it could be cardboard, but because it's in soil and it doesn't look like it's degrading at all, I think it might be terracotta. I don't know. Anyways, this is not a self-blanching variety. This would be one of a more traditional variety, and you can kind of tell by that spreading of the leaves. You get more sun contact here. This is also grown in more of a traditional Western setting where it's all grown in rows and the plants are quite separated. When you are growing self-blanching varieties, you typically do this thing called planting in blocks. And so that means that rather planting in a row, you plant in squares. And what that does is it helps reduce the amount of sun exposure to the plants on the inside, and they help to hold each other up a lot better. So with less spread and falling over, you get less sun contact. We do the same thing with corn. However, corn is grown in blocks for a different reason. It's grown in blocks for stability purposes. So the more they can hold each other up and provide support to each other, they are less predisposed to wind damage. But at the same time, the way that corn is pollinated, it just helps promote a lot more pollination and movement of pollen between the plants. Corn is pollinated by the pollen dropping rather than pollen being spread by insects. Yeet. We don't grow celery for a fruit though, so we don't really need a lot of pollination with celery, so you don't have to worry about that. So I, being someone who studied in the Canadian prairies, looked towards the University of Saskatchewan's vegetable program to look at the different pieces of research that have been done in this region. And so the 2015 cultivar trials, those would have been the ones done most recent to when I wrote this presentation. The self-blanching cultivar that they utilized did not really yield a marketable celery, and that was just due to the fact that the region had a lot of diseases that could be impacting the plant. There are a lot of things that cross between different crops, and so there is likely a crop that is produced in higher concentration sounds weird. There is more production of some plants than others in the regions. And so there is likely a disease or pest or two that cross between the crops. And due to having an unpleasant flavor, it's really not something you want to grow. Celery is not really added as a common crop in this region of the world. Are these educational streams added to some VOD here on Twitch or YouTube? So yes, I've started posting my educational VODs on YouTube. Thank you, Tyler. That's the account. Feel free to give it I'd say a follow, but I think on YouTube it's called a you subscribe. So feel free to do that. When they are on Twitch, the VOD only stays up for about a month before it is cycled out. Otherwise, Twitch would like run out of bandwidth space and shit. I don't think bandwidth is the right term. Anyways, they only stick for about 30 days before they're removed. But on YouTube, it'll be there consistently, and I'll have that posted later today. Yeah, so when these self-blanching varieties were first introduced, they did have a poor flavor, and that was just due to the fact that it was a newer cultivar that promoted self-blanching, and newest cultivars typically are not as good as cultivars that come out later. And that's just because you have continued breeding programs and continued focus on getting things to an optimal product. You'll also notice over the years, if you grew up with the standard apples being Granny Smith, so that green apple, and the Red Delicious apple, these are older cultivars, and they're really not utilized in production anymore. So you almost never see these in North American grocery stores, and that's just because as time goes on, we are able to cultivate varieties of these horticultural crops that are less susceptible to common diseases. They are more resistant to pest pressures. They grow fruits that have more desirable flavors or textures, or the plant just produces a higher yield of the crop. And so the original self-blanching varieties that came out just weren't as effective as a product with consumers. And so it was not the one that was utilized in production systems until later varieties came out. And until those came out, the traditional, more green celery was utilized. So, what this project also entailed was to come up with a mock research project. So this is me looking into the production methods of celery, the different cultivation techniques, and the preferences of consumers, and looking specifically at the region that I would be doing this research in. So again, Canadian prairies. So what is the best method for blanching celery? Where best just means the most efficient and effective in cost, labor, and consumer preference. My hypothesis that I came up with is that if you trench celery, so where we go back to this method, so where we dig a trench and plant our celery there and fill it in as it grows, it was my hypothesis that this would be the best method for this region. And that is because the Canadian prairies see a fuck ton of sun and wind. And so by trenching, you would reduce wind impact as well as reducing the sun exposure, because you'd have shadows from either side. So if you do trenching, you want to make sure that it is lined up north to south and not east to west. Because if you have your sun rising here and setting here, the trench is completely exposed to sun as it moves across the sky through the day. If you have it situated north to south, you do get that shading. So you can see that on this trench, they have oriented the trench north to south because there is this shading coming through. So that is my research hypothesis. And this is my experimental design. So this is what I came up with as how you would do the experiment itself. So I would utilize the Tango cultivar, which is a more common cultivar seen in this region. And the self-blanching would be the golden cultivar. We would need both the control and the self-blanching. And that is why we go between Tango and golden. We would have a hilled, trial. And we would have a trenched trial, as well as a collared trial. By doing all of these different trials, we do get to see which method is the most efficient and productive. So this would be my suggestion for how you do this. You would want to utilize 2 different sites, and the purpose of that is to actually focus on different potential environments. And my suggestion here was to do both full sun and partial sun, so things that actually have another source of shading. And that's just to see what the difference between additional shade versus complete sun exposure, what effect that might have. And the reasoning for that is it could inform where and who would have a more effective time growing this as a crop. So my suggestion would be 5-meter rows, and you do about 3 rows per trial. You'd have this kind of row spacing between, and that would just be so that you yield a specific amount of celery. And it's a large enough amount that you would be able to see some trends. Another suggestion would be, and this is something that you do in a lot of vegetable production trials, is you don't just do research over 1 year. And I mean, you can, but the best thing to do is to do it over 2 to 3 couple years so that you can see trends based on different seasons and the climate of different seasons. Some years it's going to be rainier, some years it'll be drier, some years you might have a lot of forest fires nearby, so there's a lot more smoke in the air. These are all things that can affect your production. I would also, with the self-blanching trial, because it is more productive in a block formation, I would also have the self-blanching celery not in this row orientation, but in a block orientation. And you would be comparing both the block and the row to each other, as well as then utilizing that comparison with all of the other varieties grown in rows. So here's your fertilization needs. You want a high nitrogen content of fertilizers, and you would continue adding through the season. The reason you want to side dress your crop, celery specifically, and that would be because nitrogen is water soluble, meaning that water can take it up and move it around. If it is not water soluble, the water that you're putting through the soil can't pick the nutrient up and move it. It will stay in place. Phosphorus is a nutrient that will stay in place. Nitrogen, the more water you add, the more of it that leaches out of your soil. So you want to continue adding through the season so that it doesn't have a reduced nitrogen source. It can continue taking up the amount it needs in an efficient manner. You would also continue wanting irrigation, and for a very dry climate like where I live, you would require additional irrigation to just rain. The amount of irrigation you want is approximately 2 to 3 centimeters a week. If you don't know how much water that is or how much you're actually providing to your plants, you want to utilize things like a rain gauge. And another thing you can do if you're utilizing a sprinkler setting or a sprinkler setup, you can put a dish of some kind in the garden under the sprinkler as it's going off, and you can see just how much water is hitting that spot. When that thing hits your 2 to 3 centimeters, 2.5 is like a really, really good standard in vegetable production. That's kind of what you want to reach for through the whole week. So you don't need to apply 2 centimeters worth of water in one day. But over the course of a week, your crop is going to want approximately that much water in the soil. The key right here is that the soil never dries out completely. You never restrict the water availability too much. When you're growing houseplants, a lot of the time that people struggle with houseplant care is inconsistent watering. So a huge dump of water, completely saturating the soil, and then a really long period in between waterings. When you get the soil to completely dry out and then introduce a copious amount of water, it can be incredibly stressful on your plant. And when you are starting your plants indoors, you want to use about 9 weeks of growth. Like, you want your transplants to have approximately that much time to mature and grow before you put it in field. And that's just to give it the most, the best chance at survival once it does go outdoors. For data collection, I suggested both quantitative and qualitative data. So the quantitative is more for the producer's end, and it tells you what you're going to kind of get out of the production. The qualitative is more for the consumer. So we're going to want to look at yield harvested. You're going to want to look at how much of that harvest is actually marketable. You're going to want to measure petiole length, because that tells you a lot about how much of the product you're going to have. And then you always want to kind of consider the amount of labor that goes into production, because if it costs too much to put your inputs in between fertilizers, equipment, workers, watering, if that's outweighing the money that you make from the crop, it kind of nixes the purpose of producing it. So qualitative, you do something called a blind taste test. I actually utilized a taste test in my undergrad thesis project. So I did something kind of like this in my undergrad thesis, but I utilized microgreens and different types of greens that could be microgreen options. Note to self, flax is a god-awful choice. Don't use flax as a microgreen. It's not nice. And then utilizing just a ranked system. So the University of Saskatchewan, that I was looking at their research prior, I used the system that they utilized for ranks, and it was a 1 to 5. And this was based off of all of these other data sets. So if you combined the yield, marketable yield, labor, petiole length, and the taste and color, you get this number out of their ranking system. Yeah, and so this is what I hypothesized the results would be based on background research. And so I believe that through this trial, we will still see that self-blanching is just not the best option for the Canadian Prairie region. And again, it's just not the right climate and environment for that. Control would be okay, but because you're not using any production methods on top, what if a consumable plant just produces poor tasting food to begin with? Then it's not something that's traditionally marketable. So there are lots of things that are edible but taste like shit. That's why we don't grow them as food and why you don't buy them at the grocery store. Just because it's edible isn't enough of a reason to be producing it. So I did believe that a trenched system where you have the most physical barrier to the sun and the wind in this region would produce the most desirable celery. And any of these methods where there is a physical barrier between wind and sun would just have a higher likelihood to being a good choice. Many things are just acquired taste. Yep, exactly. It really is. North America really hates bitter, and bitter is often countered with spicy. And North America, not a big fan of spicy. We don't like the strongest, most pungent flavors. But a lot of Eastern Asia, really, that's a common thing utilized in culinary, within cuisine. You see a lot more of that. We prefer sweeter tastes in North America and Western Europe. Yeah. Evolutionarily speaking, yes and no. Well, I mean, yes, bitter is something that is typically used to deter consumption. But yeah, like I said before, it's often countered by spicy. There is a method to make it less spicy. Yeah, so usually things like blanching, the cooking process where it breaks things down, growing stuff in less direct sunlight, all of those help reduce the amount of those compounds being produced within the plant. There would be limitations to this. So again, utilizing Saskatchewan because that is the prior research I focused on. It's pretty much too cold in this region for high quality production. It just never gets the heat needed for desirable celery. There's an ad starting. I will pause. How's Lars? Lars is good. It's prime nap hours. So each time I've walked past him today, he has been sound asleep. Oh my god, he's cute. So many cute stretches where he like kind of wakes up and does that thing where he puts his paws out and like wiggles them a little bit and he's like and then he like curls back up into his nap. I would have rolled him in here for this, but I don't want to disturb him. He's still sleeping in the living room where he gets sunlight, and I know he occasionally likes to sleep in the sunlight. How's Nep? I'm just kind of tired today, low energy, but I still wanted to do this stream. The reason I picked a PowerPoint that I had made years ago in school is just because it actually gave me less work for preparation. I would also like to thank Tylenol for helping me with the PowerPoint edits. I gave him access to all of these PowerPoints that I can utilize on stream, and so he went through and he's helping me. Did it play another ad? Or did I hit snooze instead? I don't know. It's telling me it's playing an ad, so I'm gonna continue not talking celery for a few minutes. But Tyler is really kind and is helping me with the basic edits to remove any personally identifiable information. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. Also, Tyler, I finally pulled all of the merch stuff together, so I have all of it in one location. And just because I'm fucking tired, I haven't photographed them yet. But they are all pulled together. I do know all of the different kind of items available, so that will be good. That will be good. And because I have a move coming up, I did actually put a couple of my gardening books in that that merch pile. So a few of my gardening books will be available as well. I still need to go through a couple more of the gardening books. I have so fucking many, and add a few more to the options. Yeah. All right, let's continue. So why are there limitations to celery production? Again, utilizing the Saskatchewan climate because that was the research papers I was looking at. Yeah. Environmental limitations, rainfall. The Canadian prairies really don't see as much rain as other parts of Canada. It doesn't like drying out, and it doesn't like sitting in waterlogged soils. A good portion of the Canadian prairies is really high clay soil, which means it holds and retains a ton of water. It's why it's the agricultural hotspot of Canada. grass does really well in the prairies. It's why in the Great Plains in the States, it's mostly corn production. Yeah. Taste testing is not a standardized science. It's based on preferences. And so, oh, loamy sand is okay. Loamy sand does lose water fairly quickly. So you would want to pay attention to how much water is being applied and how much water is being lost as well. So taste testing, not a standardized science. It can vary from region to region. So grading by color really doesn't change the marketability and preference of celery. So just because it's green doesn't mean it's going to have a different taste from celery that's lighter in color. But there's like a minute difference between them. We just stick to a handful of cultivars for marketable production because they have the best characteristics. Trenching and hilling do also bring a need for additional processing after harvest, and that's because if you're growing it in the dirt and you harvest it out of the dirt, it has dirt on it. And believe it or not, customers don't like that. They don't want to have to buy plants and food covered in dirt. You may notice that at the grocery store, things are not covered in dirt. Not only is it a consumer preference, it's also a transportation and marketability idea that needs to be taken into account, because the more dirt that is present, the more likely chance of rot or post-harvest diseases setting in, because they can be contained within that soil. Dirt is edible if you aren't weak. Unless there's something in there that's going to make you sick, but it's not really what we consider food. It's mostly inorganic materials. Yeah. So yeah, trenching and hilling. Here's a nice little quote from another piece of research. In marketing, the mud is unsightly to the housewife and nearly always harbors either pests, insects, fungi, and they can lead to more and more prevalent cases of rot. And then because you have to do this extra step of processing to clean the harvested product, you do have more concern with post-harvest management, because now you can't just harvest and refrigerate. There is an additional step required, so you have more likelihood of damage or introduction to other diseases that you wouldn't typically have seen. So you just have to be more attentive to that if this is going to be your method. However, there are lots of things that are grown like this, like weiße Spargel or white asparagus in Germany. And it's because the preference to the blanched asparagus is just high enough that it makes it worth it for a producer. The significance of local production of celery. Why would you want to research growing celery in the Canadian prairies? Well, if you live in the Canadian prairies, it reduces food miles. Food miles are what you call the distance between the point of production and the consumer. So plants do lose nutritional content between harvest and the consumer. The greater your food miles, both increases the amount of input required, because you now have to consider the cost of transportation, the use of different, the use of like gas and oil industry. Yeah, those things are really helpful. So a lot of research surrounding celery is outdated. Reasoning for that is because it's a less prevalent and desired crop. So the less people looking to consume celery, the less research being put into the industry. And so there's just not been a significant amount of development in available cultivars in the last while. So, as a stepping stone to more celery research, that would be the purpose of doing an experiment like this. This experiment really doesn't give you a ton of information about cultivation methods. Something that's just basically like a trial to look at what might be the most useful just informs trials that you would want to look into. If you know that hilling your celery is the most god-awful way to do it, don't do research in that. Focus on the versions of and the methods that provide the best celery. So that's kind of all the purpose of it. Another thing, so the blanching methods that were used in that cultivar trial with the Saskatchewan Vegetable Program, if you do continue celery research, this would be a really good place to do it because there already is a little bit of established research. So, blanching methods would be a nice new step for that program. Hello, we're learning about celery from me, a horticulturist. Blanching after harvest is a culinary method. This would be a cultivation method. So you can promote blanching before the plant is harvested. So, ethylene as a blanching method. It is not researched. There might be some hypotheses out there that talk about ethylene as a possible blanching method. Maybe it's also utilized in different regions of the world right now. I did this project, wrote this research concept in like 2017, 2018, or yeah, I think 2018. So this is a project I wrote years ago, almost 10 years back. There is a good chance there's some new celery research and data that is out there since. Yeah. So I do have a gap between this portion of research and current research. So I'm not saying this is the most, effective, efficient, and up-to-date research. What was I calling it? What was it called? Yeah, so it's an experimental design that is just kind of a suggestion for what kind of research you could look into. So, like I said, there's most likely new research out there. I don't know it because I'm not a celery producer. I don't work in vegetable cultivation outside of backyard production. So it's a little outside of my personal professional scope of practice. Ethylene, however, is a gaseous, I don't know what you call it. Fruit give off ethylene, and it's a ripening thing. Is it a hormone? It's a growth hormone, is what you would call it. Ethylene is part of fruit ripening. Some plants or some fruit. Oh.
Dingtong Bunny just dumped 3
Hi,
nerds into
Dingtong
the
Bunny.
terrarium.
I was hanging out in their stream earlier. If you're curious, they play music, and it's really bloody good. It was really fucking good. So, I recommend. Yeah, so ethylene is a gaseous product that is naturally occurring in plants. If a plant is called climacteric, it continues producing ethylene after it's been harvested. If it's non-climacteric, it no longer produces ethylene after harvest. Some things continue ripening and some things stop ripening. Nice. You have auto shoutout? No, I don't. I have a mod here that just did that for me. Yeah. So, I have no idea if ethylene would actually work. It's just kind of a concept that was being introduced. Oh, thank you, Queso! Much appreciated. Anyways, that's the end of this PowerPoint on celery. Do you guys have questions? It wasn't a super long presentation. It wasn't meant to like take up more than a couple of minutes. When I gave this presentation originally, I didn't spend as much time on the individual features because I was in a vegetable science class. So a lot of the context was already known by the audience. I went a little more in depth and broke it down a little further for you guys because I assume you have not taken a vegetable science course. That's just my assumption. Yee. Why is celery so good at stimulating the sound of bones breaking? It has a high water content and is structurally, it's quite strong in structure. It can hold itself up. So when you break that and you snap it, what you're doing is a combination of snapping through all of those cellulose and lignification structures. And because it's got a high water content, it aids in that. That PNG is crazy. I fucking love that PNG. Gaussian made it. So funny. Also, hello, Jamboree. Nice to see you. The bone of the vegetables. I like it. It kind of is like a backbone because it's the leaf stalk, right? It holds the leaf up. Yeah, booba. See? A booba. They wiggle. I love that. I love the feature of the big VTuber booba that wiggle around. Come on, look, it's like jiggly as hell. Why is celery paired with chicken wings? I assume it's because it has a strong flavor, which is kind of like a palate cleanser. But I didn't take food science. Danktown? Okay, so I, IRL, do not have such large jiggly booba, so I'm currently living my best big booba life. I love it. Why peanut butter and celery? Peanut butter is sweet and has a complementary flavor profile to the slight bitterness of celery. Nep is flat. I just don't have booba like this. They don't have their own inertia. Flatter and then a pancake. I'm good with that. I will take some pancakes. It's true. It does have a built-in peanut butter trough. I agree. Your celery comes with its own trenching method. You'd say you, but you've never tried it? Okay. I do not currently have pancakes. No, I ate the pancakes I had. Help curb the capsaicin? Yeah, that makes sense. Does celery have salt? Plants do have a minute amount of salts within them, but it's not table salt. Salts will dry out. It's a desiccant, so it dries things out, and so most plants don't really want a high salt concentration because it reduces water. And believe it or not, plants
some celery,
like
some
water.
peanut butter. We're gonna make ants on a log. So just getting these cleaned up, make sure there's no dirt on there. So
I'm
we're
gonna
do
turn that up a little bit.
few stalks of celery just with peanut butter. Slather it
Interesting.
on and run it
Naturally
all the way
crave
down
salt
that
after
log.
eating
Of course,
celery.
the classic is raisins. So there it is.
What the fuck
our
is celery
classic
salt then?
ants on a log. So I picked up some sun butter
Yeah,
just
same
for
thing as
this.
garlic
This is a
salt.
great
It's
alternative
because
for nut
of the
allergies.
flavor
And mix up
profile
your
of celery.
toppings. I have some
It pairs well
I mean,
with
it's
salt.
kind of like a raisin, but it's a cranberry super tart. Here we go. Almond butter. This is the one I wanted to try. Dried blueberries. They are so good, and they are a great replacement on this ants in a log. Little mini chocolate chips. That's another topping you can do. If you want to pack this for a snack or a lunch, one thing you can do, just grab a small container, load it up with your butter of choice.
Yeah, most
Just top it
likely.
with whatever you
And
want,
it's just
then
called
take your
celery salt
celery
because
stick. This is
coriander
more like
salt
an
is a
ants on
less
log
marketable
dip,
name.
and just take this with you on the go. Pack this in your lunch.
By the
Boom!
way,
Look at that.
when we
That
do
is
the
a great
kiss
side
click
for your
thing,
lunch,
do you
a
see it on your
delicious
end
snack.
too? Yep.
Problem solved.
Yep. It's a heat map. So the feature that you can utilize on Twitch to produce that heat map where people can click and you get the concentration of clicks shown. It's the same thing. It's the same extension tool. But you can pick from a bunch of different things. I picked the kiss one because I don't see it anywhere, and I think it's funny. Actually, I'm curious, what are the other options? So if you kiss the thonkers, well, they'll just show up. And then, because you've already exposed yourself as the nerd that's smooching titties on stream, we will make fun of you. That's just kind of what's gonna happen. Yeah. I'm impressed I stretched this celery talk into 2 hours. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Tyler. Yeah, but this is definitely by far the most horticultural centered talk I've given you guys. Horticulture is the cultivation of food crops and any kind of plant that's not part of large-scale ag. So this is horticulture. It's not just botany, it's also production and after harvesting and marketing and consumer preferences and all of that. Disease management and pest management, methods of production. Yeah, this is what horticulture is. So when I say that sometimes you guys ask me questions that are not my field of knowledge, sometimes you guys are picking things that they overlap heavily with another area of research that has nothing to do with cultivation. So my specialty is how do you grow it? Yeah. I'm glad you guys liked it. I am going to end stream early because I do have an additional stream commitment later today. So one more time, I will be playing Gambling with Friends. Here. I will be playing Gamble with Friends later this evening. I believe the start time is 8 or 8:30 p.m. Western, Pacific. It's like 8 p.m. Pacific time, which in regards to my schedule would be, yeah, so if we started stream at 6 p.m., this one will be at 10 p.m. So it'll be late. I won't be streaming it. I will just be attending. So I know Gaushan and Aleph will be streaming. This is Terrified Games. So he might also be streaming. You'll also notice that this fucker right here, Poisson, this little fucker right here decided to put me minus $420,000 in the hole. So, damn. I thought it was a 1, but when I asked them about it, they're like, correction, 4. But you guys will be able to find me there later tonight, gambling away all of our money. Fucking wild card, bitches! Actually, I need to find that scene so we can watch it together. Oh, and we still gotta do Metaflora. Okay, let's look up, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Wild card. Let's see if it loads in for me. Oh, you guys can't see it because of that. Let me get rid of that.
Gotten these barrels out of the van before we got in?
They're really heavy, D. We've already had to do it like 1,000,000 times.
Where'd you get the money for this gas?
D, will you shut up and let me continue? Now, Frank, when we get back to the bar, you waterboard the shit out of Bruce and get a confession.
No problem.
Now, Dennis, you take that confession to the police, use your charm and good looks, and get that reward money.
Done and done.
Okay, D, you continue.
Actually, I'm going to restart that with the captions so that everyone is
Gotten
able
these
to hear
barrels out
this
of the van
properly.
before we got in?
They're really heavy, D. We've already had to do it like 1,000,000 times.
Where'd you get the money for this gas?
D, will you shut up and let me continue? Now, Frank, when we get back to the bar, you waterboard the shit out of Bruce and get a confession.
No problem.
Now, Dennis, you take that confession to the police, use your charm and good looks, and get that reward money.
Done and done.
Okay, D, you continue to be useless. Charlie and I will use that reward money to pay off our electricity bill. Then we'll probably buy some more gasoline, because I feel like that's a great plan. Wait, sorry. Brakes aren't working. No, I'm saying, no, brakes!
I'm
Guys,
also
why aren't the brakes working?
Because I cut the brakes! Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
Oh my God! Guys, I can't stop this man! Aboard!
Anyways, when I start wildcard bitches, this is what I'm referring to.
Hole
So,
number 17, 338 yards, dogleg left.
yeah, that is the TV show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a little wild. If you like some really edgy, well, maybe not edgy. It's like Seinfeld on opioids. I haven't seen that episode, but the whole show is great. I know, I love it. It's really funny. It's edgy, you're right. Okay, fair. Yeah. Dude, I love Trash Man. I'm the Trash Man. I'm the Trash Man, Charlie. I throw trash. oh my God, yes. Dayman. Let's look it up. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Dayman. Oh, he totally does. I'm so glad they got him. If you appear in my car, I will drive towards the nearest body of water because I'm scared. If it makes you feel better, Tex, I don't know where the brake lines are in a car.
Hands and I miss you, Nightman, so bad.
Can you have an eggie? Command eggie.
Stupid, can't write. Charlie?
Let's join forces.
Hello, come right in.
I will.
What happened to your band?
Kick me out.
Well, it hurts, doesn't it?
What's with the curtains?
I'm living in a world of darkness.
Right. Let's get some
I
light
was
in
sitting
here.
behind you in...
Whoa, what's with the spray paint, man?
What's with your outfit, man?
Why don't we put the curtains back
No,
up?
no. What is going on up here?
I never know, man.
Daylight.
Yeah, I like that.
Dayman.
Dayman.
Fighter of the night, man. Champion of the sun. You're a master of karate
And friendship for everyone.
A dayman. That's it.
Dayman.
Fighter of the night, man. Champion of the sun.
You're a master of
Karate,
and
friendship for everyone.
Dayman. Nice, we'll get the...
Fighter of the night, man. Champion of the sun.
Okay,
Ladies and gentlemen, we are Electric Dream Machine.
the other one I want to show because I reference it a lot is oh, what's this?
offer you a nice egg in this trying time?
Yeah. It is a real song. Right? They sang it. It's a real song. There's spiders in my soul. Soul. So if you use these command in my chat, someone should do that so you guys can see it. It says, it calls her a stupid science bitch. Yeah, see, Z? Another stupid science bitch. I am referencing this.
I'm finished, guys. I'm finished. Now, this is all about making myself credible in your eyes again, and I'm gonna do that by admitting that evolution is a lie!
God damn you, Mac!
Yes, please do, Mac.
Now, as you can see, this is the evolution meter, and I've put God, the
Duh.
creator of everything,
Of course I'm a
on the
stupid
right
science
side, and
bitch.
evolution on the left. I've went ahead and put you guys all on the fence, because of course you're gonna hear after my
Actually, no. Let's start where I would start.
No matter, I'm righteous. I'm not gonna stand here, present some egghead scientific argument based on fact. I'm just a regular dude. I like to drink beer, you know? I love my family. Rock, flag, and eagle, right, Charlie? He's got a point.
No, he doesn't.
See, Charlie? These liberals are trying to assassinate my character. I can't change their mind. I won't change my mind, because I don't have to, because I'm an American. I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
Mac, look, you're wasting our time. You're not going to get us to not believe in evolution.
And why is that?
Because the smartest scientists in the entire world all agree that it's real.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because, Mr. Reynolds,
I'm
science
dug in.
is a liar sometimes.
Oh boy.
This is Aristotle, thought to be the smartest man on the planet. He believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, and everybody believed him because he was so smart. Until another smartest guy came around,
Is this appropriate
Galileo.
to share at the end of a
and he
science and
disproved
tech
that theory,
stream?
making Aristotle and everybody else on Earth look like a...
No, I clicked the wrong button.
Of course, Galileo then thought comets were an optical illusion, and there's no way that the moon could cause the ocean's tides. Everybody believed that because he was so smart. He was also wrong.
Hi, Thunder.
Making him and
We're
everyone
wrapping
else
up
on
stream.
Earth
We were learning
look
about
like a
celery.
bitch again. And
And
then,
now we're, yeah.
best of all, Sir Isaac Newton gets born and blows everybody's nips off with his big brains. Of course, he also thought he could turn metal into gold and died eating mercury, making him yet another stupid bitch. Are you seeing a pattern?
No.
Mr. Reynolds, these were all the smartest scientists on the planet. Only problem is they kept being wrong. Sometimes.
This is insane, you fool!
I'm a fool because I have more faith in the saints that wrote the Bible?
Yeah, because you just read the words of a bunch of guys that you never met, and you just take it on faith that everything they wrote was true.
And what makes you think what your scientists are writing is any more truer than my saints?
Because there are volumes of proven data, numbers, you know, figures. There are fossil records.
Oh, fossil records. Ah! I didn't even think about the fossil records. I guess I'll concede. Oh, wait, one more thing before I do, Mr. Reynolds. Have you seen these fossil records?
Have I? Huh?
Have you poured through the data yourself? The numbers, the figures?
Well, no. I mean, no.
Oh,
A mercury
interesting.
streamer? That's
So let me get this
awesome.
straight, Mr. Reynolds. You get your information from a book written by men you've never met. And you take their words as truth, based on a willingness to believe, a desire to accept, a leap of, oof, dare I say it, faith?
Come on. Look, I mean, I don't even know how I'm supposed to respond to that. Like, come on. That's a false equivalency.
Just answer the question, Mr. Reynolds.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I rest my case.
Well, that got me. Yeah.
Frank, do you want me to?
Put me over.
Yeah, all right.
What?
Well, we're going on the fence. I mean, that's a shadow of a doubt.
You actually don't believe in evolution anymore?
I don't know.
Ring
he
bell.
created a reasonable doubt. He makes you sound like a stupid science bitch.
Yeah, you good.
Oh, my God.
It makes you sound like a stupid science bitch. Hence why Z is another stupid science bitch. Can the bell be the gong instead? I'm gonna go with no. I like the bell. But that would be funny. That would be funny. Alright. Time to wrap up stream. I had a good time. Had a good time. But I'm gonna go lie in some blankets and rest after this, because I'm still tired. Okay. Let's quickly do metaflora. And then we'll, and then we'll wrap up. Okay. It's time for some metaflora. Yeah, I know, Jonah, but I'm really tired. It's kind of hard to be super entertaining. I'm gonna run the ad, and then we'll get into metaflora. Rhubarb? Cucumber? I'm always entertaining. Thank you. That's what my mom says. She said I should be a comedian, but then I'm like, I can't just tell like one-off jokes. I need banter, I guess. Banter is what makes me funny. I'm really, really good at, oh, what do you call it? Where you just do it off the cuff. Improv. I can improv shit really well. Why did the chicken cross the road? I don't fucking know. The bants. I like me some good banter. But yeah. I look forward to streaming tonight. I hope you guys come. Hope you guys come by. Nep is a natural at chirping. Yeah. Yeah. Can't you tell? The secret dies with the chicken. It does. Waiting for the ad. And of course we're going to start with celery because that was our topic today. APM graviolins. You'll probably be lurking. That sounds fine. I won't be streaming it on my end. You'll have to go to Aleph or Gaussian stream. Maybe Terrified Games. Yeah.
You two-handed me in the ankle. Now you answer the bell.
Looks like you answered the Taco Bell, Frankie, one too many times. You fucking save some for the rest of us, you fucking garburator.
Hey, Jean-Jacques François Jacques Jean.
More like John Joke, Francois Joke, John, fucking Jabba the Pizza Hut.
Fuck you, Shorzy.
Fuck you, Frankie. I told them to put a bear trap over by the dumpster to keep you from rummaging around in there. Go back into the bush and eat some berries like you're supposed to.
Tabarnak.
You're fucking Winnie the Pooh, bud. Go put some honey in your tummy.
Calice.
Jesus Christ. Take Christopher Robin with you, you fucking loser.
Sacrement.
Go back to the fucking dessert bar, you fucking treats a pizza face.
Yarge.
Jesus Christ, Frankie.
Alright, good night, Cags. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you learned some neat stuff about celery. You know, all the things you never asked to learn. And,
hey, what's the matter, Frankie?
Yeah.
Hey, no secrets between besties.
On va revenir.
What, you just
Have a good
remember
toke
fucking
and
2-for-1
cozy
dip
eats.
pones at
I will.
DQ, you
Thank you.
fucking hippo? Away, Frankie. Continue comme ça. Enjoy that 20-pack.
I wish you were smart enough to chirp. You just gotta be a bird. That's all. And then you can chirp. Alright, let's guess celery. Okay. So, we are here in the Mesangiospermae, the flowering plants. And we were up here in Apium. So, we know that this is not the most common relative. We know that the asterids are not the most common relative. We even know that pentapetalae, or the dicots, is not the most common relative. We do know that it is Mesangiospermae. Which means that if it's not this fan, it's either going to be over here in our magnolids, it's going to be over here in our proteales, it's going to be up here in our ranunculus, or it's going to be here in what this website calls the Liliospheda, or the monocots. So, which group should we go for? Any choices? Asparagus and the monocots? Sounds good. Nope. So, asparagus exists up here in the asparagales, and since it is not that, and it's still mostly closest related to the Mesangiospermae, we know that it's not here, we know it's not here, we know it's not here. So we're either going into our proteales, magnolids, or ranunculus. It is not pentapetalae. Pentapetalae is where we had the celery, and celery is, it's not, the most common relation is back here, so it can't be up in this fan. Brassica? Brassicas are up here in our malvids, so it's not a brassica. And we also know it's not a Liliospheda. So we're either going into the ranunculus, which is the buttercups, and our options in here include the Papaverbaceae family, which is poppies. So we could guess poppies. We could guess black pepper in the Piperales. Or we could guess cinnamon in the Canalales. Or we could guess the proteales, which includes, oh god, we've been in here before. I just can't remember what the plants in here are. What's in the Protea family? Macadamia is in there. So we can either guess magnolids, proteales, or buttercups. So I'll give you the options of black pepper, macadamia nut, or poppy. Long pepper. Like, you mean black pepper? I'm gonna go with the poppy because I don't know what you mean by long pepper. Nope. Oh. Okay. That one is not an option in here. The answer bank is not as big as everything else. So black pepper, let's try it. Ooh, it's a no. So we are not in the magnolids, and we are not in the buttercups. So we are most likely in the proteales. So let's look up common proteales. So Banksia is an option, macadamia is an option. I don't think lotuses are in. Are lotus in here? It is. We could guess lotus. You guys want to guess lotus? No, but I've tried red lotus. We are definitely in the proteales. I'm going to just guess macadamia because I can. Aha! Macadamia. Cool. We win. Isn't that great? We've played together on stream 51 times, and we have won 51 times. We're great. Was that an Avatar reference? Blue Lotus? No. Blue Lotus is a plant. It's not actually blue, it's purple. Blue is a pigment, does not exist in plants. Like, this is not a real plant, that's edited. This is a real plant. Real, weirdly edited. Why doesn't blue exist? I don't know. I don't know. Well, indigo is a really deep purple. There's actually an what do you call it? An era in art that was called the Blue Period. And it's because people discovered a good source of a blue pigment. So suddenly blue as a pigment was available, and so artists who did not have access to a good source of a blue pigment now did. And so the blue period in art is characterized by a huge amount of blue colors within the within art. Yep, Comey got it. But yeah, it's just a really, really big period in art. So, wait, is Blue Period like legit? Oh, it is a manga. I wonder if it got turned into a show. I want to know. It is animated. Whoa! When did it come out? Oh, it came out in 2021. Ooh, I want to watch that. What the fuck? It's a psychological thriller? Okay, I'm gonna watch this sometime. Anyways, I want to see who is online. So let's pop back over here. And I will peek at any of my followers, or anyone that I follow that's online. And if those that I support are not online, I will who is online? Oh, a Fleece is online. Oh, so is Ozzy. And Millie. I think we're gonna go see Millie. You couldn't sit in the VC the other day? That's fine. We VC fairly regularly, so you'll get there. You'll get one of them. Okay, but yeah, we're gonna go see Millie. I need a... raid message. I need a raid message. Okay, that is... oh, I got a raid message here. I love raiding a new one each time. But yeah, grab your raid message. I'm gonna raid Millie. Oh, wait, oops. Wait, what? Where's Millie? There we go. All right, grab your raid message. Again, if you are looking to catch me again later this evening, it'll be in 2 to 3 hours, I think. But you can either find me at Gaussian Surface VT or Aleph Mu VT's channels. I will give little shout outs to each so you can find them. So shout out. Gaussian. Shout out. Aleph. And shout out. I don't know if Terry will be streaming it or not, but I'm still going to shout him out just in case. But yeah, you'll be able to find me at any of these channels in a couple hours to play Gamble with Friends. Dun dun dun. With these nerds. So I will see you guys there later. I'm gonna go take a nap. Hey. Yeah, bye.